Well, evening everybody, and welcome to week 21 here on Pub Quiz 60. Same format as ever, so hopefully you've seen the rules as you've gone past there on the video. 5 rounds again, possible 60 points. Switch off the live chat now just for the duration of the quiz, but we'll pop that back on during the marking after the third round. But I think without further ado, if we go into the quiz proper. And the first round this week is history. And the first question in history is: which Carthaginian general led his army across the Alps with a contingent of elephants? Which Carthaginian general led his army across the Alps with a contingent of elephants? Now, as ever for all these questions, there'll be a 20-second clock that comes on as well, so I'll pop that on now. Gives you a little bit of thinking time, but as a reminder, there is a minute's thinking time as well at the end of each round. So that's the first question. As I say, each question will have 20 seconds, but a minute's thinking time at the end of every round, just so you can finalise any answers that you're unsure of. But moving on to question 2 in history, which is: which British admiral defeated the French at Trafalgar but was killed during the battle? Which British admiral defeated the French at Trafalgar but was killed during the battle? Once again, 20 seconds. Moving on, and question 3 in history: in which year did Princess Diana die? In which year did Princess Diana die? And again, we'll have 20 seconds there on the clock. That brings us on to question 4 in the first round history. Who did Queen Elizabeth I succeed to the throne of England? Who did Queen Elizabeth I succeed to the throne of England? And again, 20 seconds on the clock here. As ever, it's worth mentioning as well, as per all the other quizzes we've done on this, spelling isn't the most important thing at the end of the day. Not necessarily for this question, but for others, when it comes to marking, if it looks correct, then it's probably worth giving the points. And that brings us to the halfway question here in round 1, history. Who was the first American president to resign from office? Who was the first American president to resign from office? And again, 20 seconds there on the clock. Now, in each round, there's always a bonus question as well. That always comes after question 5, and it's worth 2 points when it comes to marking. And it's in some way related to the information in question 5 for each round. So now, let's see what the bonus question is for the history round. And it is: what year did this president resign? In what year did this president resign? So the president we're mentioning in question 5, what year did he resign? And again, it's 2 points when it comes to marking these. 2 points for the bonus questions. Once again, 20 seconds on the clock though. And each round will have a bonus question in, so that gives 12 points per round, and that gives a total of 60 for the 5 rounds. Takes us back to the single point questions again. Question 6 in history for 1 point. What was the Roman name for Scotland? What was the Roman name for Scotland? Again, we'll pop 20 seconds on the clock there. 4 questions to go in the first round. Question 7 in history is: what was the name of the intruder found in the Queen's bedroom in 1982? What was the name of the intruder found in the Queen's bedroom in 1982? And again, 20 seconds on the clock. So just a reminder here, after the first 3 rounds, we'll mark those before we have a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back and have the final 2 rounds. Just 3 questions to go in this first round. Question 8 in history. Who became Prime Minister of Great Britain when he was only 24 years old, the youngest person ever to be offered this post? Who became Prime Minister of Great Britain when he was only 24 years old, the youngest person ever to be offered this post? Once again, 20 seconds there on the clock. Just 2 questions to go in the first round. Question 9 in history. Name the dam on the River Nile that was completed in 1970. Name the dam on the River Nile that was completed in 1970. And that takes us to the last question in the first round. Which ex-statesman born in Umtata in 1918 was imprisoned in Robben Island Prison, Cape Town from 1962 to 1990? Which ex-statesman born in Umtata in 1918 was imprisoned in Robben Island Prison, Cape Town from 1962 to 1990? So that's the last question there. As I say, there's a minute's thinking time at the end of this round. We won't be going over any of the questions again, but it does give you a little bit of thinking time just to fill in any of the blanks you might have had so far. So as I say, that brings us to the end of the first round. That's history. We'll now have a minute there to finalise any answers you're unsure of, try and leave any blanks, and then we'll come back after that and go straight into round 2. But for the moment, a minute on the clock. So that takes us a minute on the clock there. Hopefully you managed to finalise any answers you're unsure of there in round 1. But there is a minute's thinking time at the end of round 2 and round 3, should you be unsure of anything still before we go into marking. So still plenty of time to make sure you fill in any of those blanks. But now we'll go into round 2. And round 2 this week is word chain. So just a little bit of explanation before this. Basically 10 questions again, but each of the answers, the end letters of those answers, so either 1, 2, 3, 4, however many letters, will lead into the start of the second answer. So the last few letters, that might be one, just the last letter, or the last 2, or the last 3, they become the beginning of the second answer. Obviously the bonus question doesn't relate to that, it's only the 10 main questions, but it all makes sense as we go along, hopefully. Like I say, once you've got the first answer, then the second answer's letters will begin with the ending of the first. So if we go into the first question, and the first question in the word chain is, What H is a large barrel or cask of about 50 gallons in capacity? What H is a large barrel or cask of about 50 gallons in capacity? And once again, to keep things speeding along, we'll have 20 seconds on the clock for each question. Again, there'll be a minute's thinking time at the end of this round as well, so if you're unsure of anything, just jot a note down. You can always come back to it in that minute's time, have another look at it. So again, because it's the word chain round, I'll just explain. So the second question, the first letters, however many it is, will begin with the end letter or letters from the first answer. So even if you're unsure of the answer, you might have a little bit of a clue if you've got either the previous answers or the answers after. But let's have a little look at question 2. Question 2 is, what hormone stimulates the nervous system? What hormone stimulates the nervous system? And again, we'll have 20 seconds on the clock. So as one more reminder, the start letters of this answer will be the end letters of the answer to question 1, and so on and so on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It will ignore the bonus question, and then 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So moving on to question 3 in the word chain. Which oil is obtained by pressing the seeds of the flax? Which oil is obtained by pressing the seeds of the flax? And again, we'll have 20 seconds there on the clock. And that takes us on to question 4 in the word chain. If Victorian is used to describe 1837 to 1901, what is used for 1901 to 1910? If Victorian is used to describe 1837 to 1901, what is used to describe 1901 to 1910? And again, 20 seconds there on the clock. And that takes us halfway through round 2, the word chain. And question 5 is, what is a device normally made of metal used to connect a vessel to the bed of a body of water to prevent the craft from drifting due to wind or current? What is a device normally made of metal used to connect a vessel to the bed of a body of water to prevent the craft from drifting due to wind or current? Now, there will be a bonus question after this related to question 5. But the next one to be in the chain will actually be question 6. So the bonus question isn't part of the chain, or the answer at least isn't. So the answer of this, the end letters of this answer will form the start of question 6, not the bonus question. The bonus question is standalone. So let's have a look at that bonus question here for the word chain round, related to question 5. This answer, that's question 5, is also a brand of butter. But what country does it come from? This answer is also a brand of butter, but what country does it come from? 20 seconds there on the clock. And 2 points again when it comes to marking these. We'll state again, even in the word chain round, this bonus question is standalone and doesn't relate to any of the links of the other answers. Question 5, which we've just had, will link into the next question, question 6. So that was the bonus question, 2 points as a reminder when it comes to marking that. But going back to the single point questions, and again part of the word chain, question 6 for 1 point. Who was the hero of David Morrell's novel First Blood? Who was the hero of David Morrell's novel First Blood? Again, 20 seconds on the clock on that. And the start letter or letters of this will be the end letter or letters from the answer to question 5, not the bonus question. Carrying on the chain and the single point questions. Question 7 in the word chain. Apart from Paraguay, what is the only other landlocked country in South America? Apart from Paraguay, what is the only other landlocked country in South America? And again, we'll have 20 seconds there on the clock. Just 3 more questions to go in round 2. Question 8. What is the capital city of the US state of Maryland? What is the capital city of the US state of Maryland? And again, we'll have 20 seconds on the clock here. Some of these questions slightly harder than others, but obviously if you've got the answer before and after, then you might be able to work out what the letters are that carry on the chain between the two. Just 2 to go. Question 9 is, what is the name of a triangle that has 2 equal angles? What is the name of a triangle that has 2 equal angles? And once again, 20 seconds there on the clock. And that brings us to question 10, the last question in round 2. What is the name of the Greek island off the west coast of Turkey that was the birthplace of the poet Sappho? What is the name of the Greek island off the west coast of Turkey that was the birthplace of the poet Sappho? And again, 20 seconds here for the last question in round 2. So that brings us to the end of round 2, the word chain round. Like the first round and all other rounds now, we'll have a minute just to finalise any answers you're unsure of before we come back and do round 3. But for the moment, we'll have a minute on the clock. So there we are, that's a minute's thinking time there for round 2 and the word chain round. Hopefully enough time to fill in any blanks you're unsure of. But there will be another minute at the end of the next round as well, round 3, just before we do final marking to make any final changes. But let's move on to that round, round 3, and again it's a logos round, a picture round. This week the logos, they are all charity logos with part of the words removed to make it a little bit harder, but 10 charity logos, and again there'll be a bonus question in the middle. So we'll pop the first logo up, and it's just one simple question. Can you name the charity whose logo that is? Again, we'll have 20 seconds for each of these. Now, it's worth mentioning as well, we won't be going over the questions again, so if there's any you're unsure of, then do take a picture on your phone or a screen grab on your laptop, something you can come back to and look at in the minute's thinking time. We won't be showing the pictures again. So So that was question 1. Again, it's the same question for all of them. Simply, can you name the charity from the logo? But moving on to question 2. Once again, simple question. Can you name the charity there from that logo? And there's 20 seconds on the clock. So after this, there'll be a minute's thinking time as well, just to finalise any of the logos you're not sure of, but also any questions from both history and the word chain round before we go into the marking of those first 3 rounds. Now let's look at question 3. And once again, simply, can you name the charity from that logo? And there's 20 seconds on the clock. And then once we've marked those first 3 rounds as well, we'll have a 5-minute break for you to go and stretch your legs, have a bite to eat, have a drink, let the dog out, whatever you need to do. And during that, we'll pop the live chat on as well to get an idea of people's scores at the halfway mark. But we're going along at a good pace here, which is always good. It usually takes about 50 minutes, 55 minutes or so, the quiz. Moving on, question 4 in the logos round. Once again, can you simply name the charity represented there by that logo? And 20 seconds on the clock. Then after those 5-minute break, we'll come back, 2 more rounds to do before I'll pop the live chat back on live to get an idea of final scores and who's won this week. It's always good to see, and any other comments. That takes us to question 5 in the logos round. Same question as others. Can you simply recognise that charity from the parts there of its logo? And 20 seconds on the clock. And as per the previous rounds as well, there's now a bonus question for 2 points that's in some way related to the information here on question 5. But for 2 points when it comes to marking, in what decade was this UK charity founded? In what decade was this UK charity founded? And again, we'll have 20 seconds on the clock. So as a reminder, it's 2 points when it comes to marking that and all the bonus questions. All other questions, just 1 point. So let's go back to the 1 point questions. Question 6 in the logos round for 1 point. Can you recognise the charity there from the partial logo? And again, 20 seconds on the clock. Just 4 more questions to go in the logos round. Question 7. Again, the same question. Can you recognise that charity from the parts there of its logo? And again, we'll have 20 seconds on the clock. Three more questions to go. There's question 8. 1 more logo, and again, can you name the charity represented there? 20 seconds again on the clock. Takes us on to the second last question in the round. Question 9. 1 simple question again. What's the charity represented there? And again, as ever, 20 seconds to answer. And that brings us to the last question in the logos round. Same question again, can you name the charity there represented by that logo? And again, 20 seconds there on the clock. So that brings us to the end there of round 3, the logos round. As I say, what we'll do now is have a minute just to finalise any answers that you're unsure of in that round. So hopefully if you've taken a picture or a screen grab of any of the ones you weren't sure of, so you can refer back. But it also gives you time now as well to fill in any of the gaps in round 1, history, or round 2, the word chain, because after this minute, when we come back, we'll be marking the first 3 rounds. So I have a minute on the clock now to finalise answers for rounds 1, 2 and 3 before we come back to mark those rounds. A minute on the clock. Okay, so that's the final minute's thinking time there for rounds 1, 2 and 3. What we'll do now is quickly mark those rounds. I'm just going to not put the questions back up on screen again. I'll just read them out quickly and go through the answers equally as quickly. As ever, when it comes to marking, if you're marking someone else's, do remember spelling isn't the most important thing in the world. If it looks right, then it's worth the answer, and then it's 2 points as well for any of the bonus questions. I will remind you as we go along, but it's 2 points for the bonus questions and 1 point for the normal single questions. So 12 points available in each round. But let's look at round 1. That was history. Question 1 was, which Carthaginian general led his army across the Alps with elephants? That was Hannibal. Question 2, which British admiral defeated the French at Trafalgar but was killed during the battle? Well, that was Horatio Nelson. Horatio Nelson, who died aged just 37 at that battle. In question 3, for 1 point, in which year did Princess Diana die? Well, that was way back in 1997. And she was just 36 when she died back then. 1997, 36-year-old Princess Diana died. Question 4 for a point. Who did Queen Elizabeth I succeed to the throne of England? Well, back in 1558, when she became Queen, she succeeded Mary I. Mary I. Question 5 for a point. Who was the first American president to resign from office? That was Richard Nixon. And then the 2-point bonus question related to that. In what year did this president resign? We're not giving any leeway or a year either side. The answer was 1974. 1974. Back on August the 9th then. August the 9th, 1974. So 2 points. Well done if you got that. Back to the single point questions. Question 6. What was the Roman name for Scotland? Well, that was known as Caledonia. Question 7. What was the name of the intruder found in the Queen's bedroom in 1982? Well, that was Michael Fagan. Well done if you got that. Question 8. Who became Prime Minister of Great Britain when he was just 24, the youngest ever to be offered the post? Well, that was William Pitt the Younger. Question 9 for 1 point. Name the dam on the River Nile that was completed in 1970. Well, it took 10 years to build, and that is the Aswan or the Aswan High Dam. Aswan Dam or Aswan High Dam. Either name there. The Aswan bit is the key bit. Question 10, the last one, again for 1 point. Which statesman, born in 1918, was imprisoned in Robben Island, Cape Town, between 62 and 90? Well, that was, of course, Nelson Mandela, who died in 2013, 7 years ago, aged 95. So 12 points available for that first round. History, if you want to write down a little note of that, but we'll carry on marking the next 2 rounds to get an idea of the score at the halfway mark. Total possible of 36. As ever for these quizzes, anything over 25 at that stage is a good score. Anything closer to 30, very, very good. But anything near 25, a very good score. But we'll have a look out for that, and again, the live chat will be open during the 5-minute break. But let's look at round 2 now, the word chain. Question 1, what H is a large barrel or cask of about 50 gallons in capacity? Well, that is a hogshead. Hogshead. Then question 2, what hormone stimulates the nervous system? Well, this word here will obviously start with the last letter or letters of hogshead, and the answer is adrenaline. Adrenaline. Question 3 for 1 point, which oil is obtained by pressing the seeds of the flax? Again, carrying on the word chain, that is linseed. Linseed. Question 4, if Victorian describes 1837 to 1901, what is used from 1901 to 1910? Well, that is Edwardian. Edwardian. Describing primarily the reign of Edward VII, so Edwardian the answer. Question 5, what is a device normally made of metal used to connect to a vessel or a body of water to prevent the craft from drifting? Easy one there, hopefully, that is anchor. Anchor. So 1 point for that. Now the bonus question that was standalone and not part of the word chain, but for 2 points. This answer, so question 5's answer, is also a brand of butter. What country does it come from? Well, if the answer was Anchor Butter, then the country it comes from is New Zealand. Anchor Butter from New Zealand, founded back in 1886. So 2 points. Well done if you got New Zealand for that. Back to the single point questions though, and carrying on the word chain. Question 6 for 1 point. Who was the hero of David Morrell's novel First Blood? Well, the hero was Rambo. Rambo carries on from Anchor into Rambo. Question 7 for 1 point. Apart from Paraguay, what is the only other landlocked country in South America? Well, that is Bolivia. Bolivia is the answer there. Now, the slightly trickier one here, question 8. What is the capital city of the US state of Maryland? Well, that is Annapolis, A-N-N-A, Annapolis, which follows on from Bolivia, and Maryland, the 42nd biggest state by area. 1 point, but well done if you got that. Tricky question, that one. Question 9, what is the name of a triangle that has 2 equal angles? Well, that is an isosceles triangle, an isosceles triangle. And the final question, question 10, what is the name of the Greek island off the west coast of Turkey, the birthplace of the poet Sappho? Well, that is the island of Lesbos. Lesbos. So again, possible 12 points there in the word chain round, if you want to add that to the score you got in the history round. Running total, hopefully, so far, out of 24. But one more round to go. We'll be marking before we have a quick 5-minute break to give you time to go and grab a drink, bite to eat, stretch your legs, let the dog out, whatever you need to do. Round 3 was the charity logos round. Won't be showing the pictures, I'll just be going through them quickly as before. So question 1, that's the logo for cancer research. Question 2, that was Save the Children. Save the Children. Question 3, that is the RNLI, the Royal National Lifeboat Institute. Question 4, that was Oxfam, maybe the easiest one of the bunch. Question 5, for 1 point, that was the logo or part logo of the RSPCA. RSPCA. And then the bonus question related to that for 2 points, in what decade was this UK charity founded? So what decade was the RSPCA founded? Well, it was founded in 1824, the 1820s it was founded, back in 1824 there. Back to the single point questions. Question 6 for 1 point, that was the RSPB, RSPB. Question 7 for 1 point again, that's the logo or part logo of the Salvation Army, Salvation Army. Question 8, that was the British Heart Foundation, or part of the logo of the British Heart Foundation. Just 2 to go. Question 9, Great Ormond Street Hospital. That's the logo of there. And then the last one, question 10, in the charity's logo round, was the logo of Mind. The logo for Mind. So hopefully there we've marked the 3 rounds of 12, so a possible total of 36 points. What I'll do now is I'll pop the live chat on and save that so you can pop down your scores. I say anything over 25 is always a good score, but we'll leave the live chat on there for your scores and comments. But what we'll do is we'll have a 5-minute break now, like I say, to go and grab a drink, stretch your legs, whatever you need to do before we come back and do the final 2 rounds. So live chat's now live and we'll have 5 minutes on the clock. Okay, so that's the 5 minute break over. Hopefully enough time for you to do what you need to do. Stretch your legs, grab a bite to eat, get a drink, etc, etc. But now there's 2 more rounds remaining, so 24 points available before, again, I'll open up the live chat. Switched off currently, but I'll switch on at the end just to get an idea of final scores. I think any scores above 40 will be a good score this week. 35 to 40, anything above 40, very, very good indeed. But without further ado, I think we'll move on to round 4, which again this week is a connections round like the last couple of weeks. So there's a connection between the first 9 answers, not the bonus question, obviously, again. So I'll reiterate that just in case anyone doesn't hear. The bonus question is a standalone question. The connection is linked to the actual questions 1 to 9, and question 10 will simply be, can you spot the connection between all the answers? So it'll make sense as it goes along, I'm sure. So let's move on to question 1, which is, what is the name given to an imaginary line on the surface of the Earth running from north to south, pole to pole? It is used to measure longitude, and the prime one runs through Greenwich. What is the name given to an imaginary line on the surface of the Earth running from north to south, pole to pole? It is used to measure longitude, and the prime one runs through Greenwich. Again, for each question, we'll have 20 seconds on the clock. And as a reminder on this, there is a connection between all the 9 answers. So even if you're unsure of an answer here, do note it down. And once you've got the connection, the answers might drop in quite easily for those you're unsure of. Moving on, question 2. What one word connects an area of southeast France, a 19th and 20th century Royal European dynasty from Italy, and the name given to the operettas by Gilbert and Sullivan? What one word connects an area of southeast France, a 19th and 20th century Royal European dynasty from Italy, and the name given to the operettas by Gilbert and Sullivan? And again, 20 seconds there on the clock. There is a minute's thinking time again at the end of this round as well. So if you're unsure of any of these, just jot something down at the side of your paper. And then hopefully after a few of these questions, you might get the connection. Well done if you've got it after 2. And that takes us into question 3. Which 4-letter word beginning with O has the dictionary definition as all, of all things, in all ways, or in all places? And that's from the Oxford English Dictionary, 1994. Which 4-letter word beginning with O has the dictionary definition as all, of all things, in all ways, or in all places? And again, we'll have 20 seconds there on the clock. So some of these questions might be trickier than others, but hopefully once you've got the connection, it might give you a clue back to what the answer might be. But moving on to question 4 in the connections round. What is the name of Vivaldi's work that violinist Nigel Kennedy had a big hit with in the album charts in the late 80s? What is the name of Vivaldi's work that violinist Nigel Kennedy had a big hit with in the album charts in the late 80s? And again, 20 seconds here on the clock. And that brings us on to question 5 in the connections round. And again, 1 point for question 5, but there will be a bonus question after it related to question 5, but not part of the connection. But this is part of the connection. Question 5 in the connections round for 1 point. Who was the first husband of Elizabeth Taylor? Who was the first husband of Elizabeth Taylor? And again, 20 seconds on the clock starting now. So that's 1 point there for question 5, and that's part of the connections round. But there is a bonus question for 2 points related to this question, but not part at all of the connection. And the bonus question for 2 points is, how many times was she married in total? How many times was she married in total? And once again, 20 seconds on the clock. So as for all the bonus questions, 2 points for that when it comes to marking. But back to the 1 point questions, and these are part of the connections again. Question 6 for 1 point. What do we call a person appointed to rule in place of a monarch, either because the monarch is too young or is incapacitated? What do we call a person appointed to rule in place of a monarch, either because the monarch is too young or is incapacitated? And once again, we'll have 20 seconds on the clock. That takes us to question 7 in round 4, and it is, for 1 point, which 1942 Fred Astaire and Bing Crosby movie first featured Crosby crooning his way through White Christmas for the first time? Which 1942 Fred Astaire and Bing Crosby movie first featured Crosby crooning his way through White Christmas for the first time? Again, we'll have 20 seconds on the clock. Just 3 more questions to go in round 4, the connections round. Question 8. What M is the most widely spoken language in the world? What M is the most widely spoken language in the world? And again, 20 seconds there on the clock. Just 2 more questions in the connection round. Hopefully you've got the connection by now. The last one of the actual connections, question 9, is, which all-girl group first had a hit with Leader of the Pack in 1965? Which all-girl group first had a hit with Leader of the Pack in 1965? And once again, 20 seconds on the clock. So that brings us to question 10 in the connections round, which is ever, for 1 point again, what is the connection between each of the answers or part of the answers for the first 9 questions? And we ignore the bonus question, obviously, but what is the connection between each of the answers or part of the answers for the first 9 questions? 20 seconds there on the clock. So that brings us to the end of round 4. As for the previous rounds, we'll now have a minute just to finalise any answers you're unsure of there, fill in any blanks before we come back to do the 5th and final round, which as ever is general knowledge. But for the moment, we'll pop a minute on the clock. Okay, so that's a minute's thinking time there, hopefully to fill in any blanks you had in the connections round, and more importantly as well, to have established what the connection between the first 9 answers was. But moving on now to the 5th and final round, as ever, it is general knowledge. So we're just 10 questions left in the quiz. And the first question in round 5, general knowledge, is: with which American sport would you associate Babe Ruth, Jackie Robinson and Joe DiMaggio? With which American sport would you associate Babe Ruth, Jackie Robinson and Joe DiMaggio? And once again, 20 seconds on the clock. As ever at the end of this round, another minute's thinking time just to finalise answers for the last 2 rounds before we go through the marking of those, get an idea of final scores. Moving on to question 2 in general knowledge. Who is the CEO of Twitter? Who is the CEO of Twitter? 20 seconds on the clock. And again, it's worth reminding people here when it comes to spellings on this, let's not be too precious. If it looks like the right answer when that's revealed, then it's certainly worth the 1 point. Moving on though, question 3 in general knowledge. What country had been due to host the 2020 Eurovision Song Contest before it was cancelled? What country had been due to host the 2020 Eurovision Song Contest before it was cancelled? Once again, we'll have 20 seconds there on the clock. And that takes us into question 4, which is: what is the name of Mackenzie Crook's character in the sitcom The Office? What is the name of Mackenzie Crook's character in the sitcom The Office? And takes us to question 5 for 1 point. What are the 5 colours of the Olympic rings? What are the 5 colours of the Olympic rings? And again, 20 seconds there on the clock. Now, as per the last 4 rounds as well, there'll be a bonus question for 2 points related to this question. And the bonus question in general knowledge is: what is the colour of the far left ring? What is the colour of the far left ring? So that's the far left of the 5 Olympic rings. What colour is that? Again, 20 seconds on the clock. 2 points if it comes to marking this. So that's the last bonus question, the last possible 2-point answer. And we'll go back into the single point questions. Question 6 in general knowledge is: what is the currency of Vietnam? What is the currency of Vietnam? And again, 20 seconds there on the clock. Just 4 more questions to go in the round and the quiz. Question 7 in general knowledge. Who played the Prime Minister, Jim Hacker, in Yes, Prime Minister? Who played the Prime Minister, Jim Hacker, in Yes, Prime Minister? 20 seconds there on the clock. Moving on to question 8 in general knowledge. Who authored the Hunger Games book series? Who authored the Hunger Games book series? Again, 20 seconds on the clock. Just 2 questions to go in the round and the quiz. Question 9 in general knowledge. What year did Dexy's Midnight Runners release Come On Eileen? What year did Dexy's Midnight Runners release Come On Eileen? And again, 20 seconds on the clock. And that rather nicely brings us to the last question in the quiz and the round. Question 10. For 1 point, which iconic soap character lost his first wife to electrocution by hairdryer? Which iconic soap character lost his first wife to electrocution by hairdryer? And for the last time, we'll have 20 seconds on the clock. So that brings us to the end of the general knowledge round and to the end of a quiz as a whole. What we'll do now is have one last minute just to finalise any answers you might be unsure of in that general knowledge round, but also the connections round as well. And then when we come back from that, we'll mark those last 2 rounds, add the total to your first 3, get an idea of final scores, and then I'll pop the live chat live for 5-6 minutes or so just to get an idea of final scores and who's come top. But for the moment, a minute's thinking time just to get answers for rounds 4 and 5 and make sure you don't leave any blanks, and then we'll come back and mark. But for the moment, a minute on the clock. Okay, so that's the final minute's thinking time there. Hopefully you had enough time just to fill in any blanks you would have had for rounds 4 and 5, because now we're going to mark those 2 rounds and then get an idea of final scores and the winner for this week. So that again, let's just go through the questions. I won't put them back up on the screen, I'll just read them and give out the answers. Round 4 is the connections round. Question 1 was, what is the name given to an imaginary line that runs from north to south measuring longitude? The prime one runs through Greenwich. Well, that is meridian. Meridian. Question 2, what one word connects an area of southeast France, a dynasty from Italy, and the operettas of Gilbert and Sullivan? Well, that is Savoy. Savoy. So I don't know whether anyone's got the link after just 2 questions. Well done if you have. Question 3, though, for 1 point, which 4-letter word beginning with O has the dictionary definition as all, of all things, in all ways, or all places? That is omni. Omni. Question 4, what was the name of Vivaldi's work that was covered by Nigel Kennedy in the late 80s? That was The Four Seasons. Four Seasons. Nigel Kennedy sold over 2 million copies of that. 2 million copies. Question 5 for 1 point. Who was the first husband of Elizabeth Taylor? Well, that was Nicky Hilton. Nicky Hilton. 1 point for that. The bonus question related to that for 2 points. How many times was she married in total? Well, she was married 8 times in total. 8 times. Back to the single point questions. Question 6 for 1 point. What do we call a person appointed to rule in place of a monarch? Well, that is a regent. Regent. Question 7, again for 1 point. Which Fred Astaire and Bing Crosby movie first featured Crosby singing White Christmas? Well, that was in Holiday Inn. Holiday Inn. Hopefully the connection's becoming clear by now. Question 8, what M is the most widely spoken language in the world? Well, that is Mandarin. Mandarin Chinese, Mandarin. Nearly 12% of the world speak Mandarin. Question 9 for 1 point. Which all-girl group first had a hit with Leader of the Pack in 1965? Well, that was the Shangri-Las. The Shangri-Las. It was a number 1 in the US, only reached 11 in the UK. So question 10, what is the connection between all of those first 9 answers? Well, hopefully you got that. They are all hotel groups. The Meridian Group, Savoy, the Omni Group, Four Seasons, Hilton International, Regent International, Holiday Inn, Mandarin Oriental, Shangri-La. So they are all hotels, types of hotels, names of hotels, hotel groups. Anything along that gets the point. Well done if you got the connection there. So moving on to general knowledge, the last round. Question 1, what American sport do you associate Babe Ruth, Jackie Robinson and Joe DiMaggio with? That is baseball. Baseball. Question 2, who is the CEO of Twitter? Well, that is the 43-year-old Jack Dorsey. Jack Dorsey, who's worth $8 billion. Question 3, what country had been due to host the 2020 Eurovision Song Contest? Well, that was the Netherlands. The Netherlands. It was due to take place in Rotterdam. Question 4, what is the name of Mackenzie Crook's character in the sitcom The Office? Well, either his first name or both names will do. It's Gareth Keenan. But I'll take just Gareth, but his full name, Gareth Keenan. 1 point for that. Question 5, what are the 5 colours of the Olympic rings? They are red, green, black, yellow and blue. Red, green, black, yellow and blue. A point there for all 5. But the bonus question related to that, 2 points for this one. What is the colour of the far left of those rings? Well, the far left ring is blue. Blue there on the far left. 2 points and well done if you got that. Question 6 though, back for the single point questions. What is the currency of Vietnam? Well, Vietnam, the currency is the dong. The dong. And apparently you get about 30,000 dong to the pound. Question 7 for 1 point. Who played the Prime Minister Jim Hacker in Yes, Prime Minister? Well, that was Paul Eddington. Paul Eddington, who died back in 1995. Question 8. Who authored the Hunger Games book series? That was Suzanne Collins. Suzanne Collins. Question 9 for 1 point. What year did Dexys Midnight Runners release Come On Eileen? Well, that was in 1982. 1982. And then the final question, question 10, which iconic soap star character lost his first wife to electrocution by hairdryer? Well, that was Ken Barlow. Ken Barlow. That's Ken, who's been married 4 times, but apparently in the series has had 27 girlfriends. 27 girlfriends. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the quiz, and hopefully there's extra rounds there. The 24 points can add to the score you had from the first half. What I'll do now is I'll put the live chat live, and then you can write down your scores. I think anything 40, 45 plus would be a good score to get, judging by some of the scores that have come in during the break. But like I say, I'll leave it on for 5 or 6 minutes. It's always good to see who's potentially won, and then look forward to seeing you again, the same place, same time next week for another Pub Quiz 60. But the live chat's live now if you want to pop your comments in, and I look forward to seeing you next week.